I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfillment. Today, we're looking at gratitude. Now, don't roll your eyes. Don't dismiss this with a cynical perspective that this is a soft trait, something that isn't going to drive any real impact on performance or your leadership style. I fundamentally disagree. Leadership's hard. It's not getting any easier. The nature of the leader in an organization is you have to fix the things that others can't or don't want to fix. So it stands to reason that you will have a constant flow of challenging situations to navigate and decisions to make. Gratitude is not a fluffy, soft trait. It is, in my opinion, a way to drive performance, to enhance your impact, and to really deepen loyalty within your team. It enhances resilience. It makes people better suited and more inclined to step through challenge and adversity on behalf of you as their leader and their wider organization. Now, I want to challenge you right off the bat at the start of this episode. Because leadership is challenging, because those moments of adversity, those difficult decisions are coming at you thick and fast, how often do you genuinely stop and think about what's going right? And how often does your mind take you to the problems, the challenges, the underperformance? That's natural. I'm not saying we have to disregard the challenge and just close our eyes and our ears to it, but we are hardwired to seek out the problem. We are hardwired to step into fear and to be anxious and stressed over what's not working and what potentially might not go well in the future. We often are guilty, I know I've been there, of neglecting things that are going well, performance that is outstanding, individuals that are going over and above. And it's so important to be able to stay cognizant of that, to be able to look at the challenge and work through them, but never lose sight of what's going well. It is transformative for your mindset and also for the mindset of the people that you lead. As you're probably tired of me saying, my work as a coach and a mentor helps shape and inform the content of these podcasts. It shapes and informs why I believe these traits are leadership essentials, because I see the pros and the cons of them being implemented and neglected in organizations all around the world. So let me just throw out 2 or 3 of the common challenges I get when I initially start to talk about gratitude. The first one, perhaps one of the most bizarre, is it makes you soft in some way, that it'll lead to a diminishing of standards. Absolutely not. In fact, I would argue the contrary. We still have high standards, and when you thank and acknowledge people for their efforts, they are far more inclined to hold the line, to drive those standards, to help hold others to account to the same standard, even when you're not present, than they are to do that if they feel unvalued, unseen, and unappreciated. So it's not about being fluffy and just everything's wonderful. Far from it. We address underperformance, we address challenges, but we always stay aware and recognize wherever we can good performance with simple acts of gratitude. And that concept of recognizing gratitude takes me on to my second challenge that I often hear. I don't have time for this. Well, gratitude doesn't have to be a lengthy process. It's a smile, a nod, a brief word, a quick note, a text, an email, a handwritten note. There's lots of different ways to do it, but invariably it doesn't have to take a lot of time. So forgive my candor, but I think that's a little bit of a cop-out. That's a little bit of a justification of, well, I know I should do it, but I haven't got time. We could say that about practically anything in life. We have to make time. The reason these are essentials, this series that I've developed is Leadership Essentials, is that I believe They are essential. You have to weave them into your leadership DNA if you want to find the highest levels of performance and fulfillment for you as an individual and for the people that you are tasked with leading. And the last and perhaps most intriguing challenge is I don't need to say that or do that. People know that I appreciate them. Do they? That is an interesting challenge. Do they really? Because I see both sides of this coin. I might work with leaders and then I work with their teams and I move up and down the hierarchical chain of command in an organization. And perception is not always reality in so many areas. So, a presumption that everybody knows I appreciate them is worth being challenged, and challenge yourself. If they know it, how do they know it? When did you last express gratitude? Think of your team now, think of those closest, think of those more distant. How do they know you're grateful? How have you expressed it? I'm not saying you're wrong. In some cases, people will know. You might have a great handle on this, but in the vast majority of cases, in my experience, people think they know, but do not have absolute certainty that what they're doing is appreciated. So now we've stepped through some of those challenges. Maybe they're relevant, maybe they're not. I want to just talk about some of the biggest benefits because I think we'll either be attracted by some of those challenges and think, yep, that could be me. I need to work on this. Or you'll be attracted by some of the benefits. Top and front and center of the list is it helps drive resilience. As I said at the start of the episode, challenges will keep coming. Difficult decisions will keep coming for you and for everybody in your organization. That's life. So somebody who feels valued, seen, and heard has a higher level of resilience. We want resilient people. We need resilient people that have an ability to draw upon their skill and their experience and be able to execute because they've got enough resilience to step into the challenge and into the difficult decision. So by expressing your gratitude, you will drive the resilience in your people. The second key benefit is it deepens loyalty. This is so important. It's hard to attract quality people. It's a difficult process to recruit quality people. It's time consuming. It's onerous to onboard them. It's difficult to give people enough runway and time to learn and make mistakes and implement the learnings from those mistakes. So when you do have good people and you've recruited well and you've gone through that onboarding, the last thing you want to do is accelerate them to the exit door and have to start that laborious process all over again. It's far better to retain your high performers over the long term and minimize that churn, minimize that need for bringing new people in, and keep your individual and team performance at the highest possible level. Well, a great way to do that is to make them feel valued and appreciated by expressing gratitude to people in good times and bad. Then you will pull them towards you. They will feel that sense of value, and you will find that you have a high level of tenure in all of your staff. And last but not least, it creates a significant mindset shift. If we're down, we're frustrated, we're feeling unseen, we're feeling undervalued, we start to feel pressure, we start to think in scarcity, our mindset becomes disempowered. And it's a simple flip of that coin. And it stands to reason and it's common sense. But as I always say, common sense is not common practice. When we feel seen, when we feel valued, when we feel respected, when we receive gratitude, then we start to see opportunities. Our mindset becomes empowered. We feel more comfortable and confident with moving forward. We believe in ourselves more, we believe in those around us, and that is a snowball effect. We start to express ideas, innovation comes to the fore, solutions are shaped, actions taken, confidence is enhanced, and lo and behold, we move through the challenge. So it has an energizing effect, a galvanizing effect, if you will, that it helps people in good times, but particularly challenging times to say, we can do this, we can move forward. You've experienced it. All of these things that I talk about, you will have experienced either personally, you will have worked under a leader, you will know the empowering impact of somebody that respected you and showed gratitude frequently and appropriately, and you will also know the disempowering effect of working under a leader that didn't. So there's nothing that I am talking about here that you probably haven't experienced. I'm just putting it back on your radar to think, well, if I've experienced it and seen the pros and indeed the cons of what James is saying, I need to work to make sure that I am not guilty of some of the gaps I've worked under and seen in others, but I embrace the positives and the pros and I'm implementing them consistently. Let me take a moment to pull out some leaders who are famed for gratitude. Richard Branson, globally recognized entrepreneur, sits at the head and the heart of the Virgin enterprise, regularly praised for the feedback and the gratitude he expresses to his staff. A big fan of the handwritten note. You see it in his media appearances. He's very quick to share the praise and to individually recognize people within the Virgin organization. Another leader I admired, John Wooden, the legendary college basketball coach. A lot of what he talks about could be dismissed as basic. I've heard people do that very thing. But actually, a phrase I like, common sense isn't always common practice. Are we embracing the basics? And John Wooden had a phenomenally successful career, but some of the basics he practiced are essentials. And I wonder if we're all practicing them to a same level, one of which was gratitude. Again, he was famed for praising players, praising staff, for establishing a culture where we acknowledged and recognized our teammates' contributions. So the simple premise of gratitude permeated his leadership style, and it's no coincidence he's so highly revered and regarded as a leader. Now, I love to read around history and military history, and one gentleman that comes to the fore is General George Marshall. Now, he was a former US Army Chief of Staff, going back a long time now during World War II. Then he became a Secretary of State, and he was actually a Nobel Peace Prize laureate as well. So, a wonderful career. And when you research and read about him, he was praised for going to the front lines to actually see his troops and express their gratitude. He was an advocate of the GI Bill. He was showing his care and consideration for the health and well-being of his troops as well. And whilst many of us are not in military scenarios, that principle of going to the proverbial front line, so exiting your office, exiting the HQ, and actually getting out into the field, into your territory, to the factories, to the offices, and seeing people in their space is a lesson that we can all embrace, and particularly making the effort to be in their space and then express gratitude while we're there is a potent combination. As I bring this episode to a conclusion, I want to finish with the takeaways. It's important, it's a staple of all of the episodes that I want to prompt reflection, make you consider what you do and don't do, but then give you a bridge to action that is a series of very simple, very tangible takeaways. And today is no different. So the first thing I want to share is start your day by writing down 3 things you're grateful for. It can be a very quick exercise, bullet point exercise, and it's something I do with all of my clients. Think about the previous day and pull out 3 things. It could be from your personal life, it could be from your professional role, but it's such a simple exercise, but it starts to rewire our software to stop us starting every day thinking about the stresses and the challenges that are forthcoming. Now, just to put a little bit of levity into the discussion, I will often get challenged that I don't have time for that. My mornings are chaotic. I've got kids to get ready. I've got family members to get out of the house, pets to walk, etc., etc., etc. So my safe solution to that is do it while you brush your teeth. I sincerely hope that everybody still has time to brush the teeth. So rather than your mind wandering absently, just think about the previous day and recognize 3 things you could be grateful for. It's a fabulous way to anchor in the start of your day and to make gratitude a daily practice. Tip number 2, build gratitude into all team meetings. It's very easy to dive into the problem, to immediately identify the fire we need to fight, the hand grenade we need to dive on, whatever analogy you want to use. We're hardwired to go to the problem. There's a time and a place for that, and it needs to be discussed. But I advocate something I always used to try and do in my CEO capacity. You find some areas of positivity to kick things off. Not fake positivity, but there will always be somebody who is performing, going above and beyond, or has delivered some form of excellence. A team or an individual within your organization, recognize it, show appreciation, do it in front of other people, and then move into the problems and the subsequent solutions. Let's not bypass all that's going well to dive straight into problems. There's a very different energy in a meeting when all we discuss is the problem. Third tip to consider, handwrite a note of thanks. Now, We can all hide behind, I don't have time, but how much time do we spend scrolling on our phones in any given day? Just take 5 minutes of that time back, and once a week, let's start there. Doesn't have to be hugely onerous. Think of somebody in your team and organization that deserves a handwritten note of thanks and watch the reaction and the impact that creates. If you don't think it'll have an impact, when was the last time someone sent you a handwritten note of thanks? It's something that pops up in a few of my episodes around motivation and valuing your people. It is super, super powerful. Tip number four, celebrate small wins. Yes, it's wonderful when we reach those big concrete milestones, sales targets, financial targets, productivity targets, and they absolutely need to be celebrated. But invariably, some of those destinations have a lot of stepping stones en route. And if we want to keep our team energized and highly motivated to walk all the way down that pathway to the end destination, then we need to take the opportunity to celebrate the small wins. Again, this isn't about empty rhetoric. It isn't about celebrating something that isn't substantive, but just think about what's going on around you right now. Who's on track? Who's just achieved a small stepping stone en route to the bigger picture? Acknowledge it. Express your gratitude for it. The small wins lead us to the big wins. Fifth tip to consider is give praise publicly as well as privately. We've all heard that notion, slow to criticize, quick to praise. Sometimes we have to deal with criticism. We have to address underperformance. And I would always advocate you try and do that in a private environment to start with until you embed the culture and the mindset that criticism is a tool for growth, and everybody becomes much more comfortable in giving and receiving constructive criticism and feedback. That's a work in progress, something we talk about in other episodes. But from this point of view, think about it from your own perspective. It's lovely to get that little quiet word of thanks, but it does make you get a little bit of a special lift if a leader takes the opportunity to recognize you in front of your peers. It's just human nature. We've all got an ego. And again, I'm not looking for you to just praise for praise's sake, but if somebody has done something, recognize it, because it's another great way to reinforce what high performance looks like, what standards you're seeking within your team by recognizing when people deliver and bring those traits and those standards and that success to the table. Recognize it, do it in front of the peers. It will encourage the peers to do the same. The next tip is find a specific. It's nice to say to people, oh, thank you for all you do. Thanks for your hard work. That still has some credence, but there's always that cynical mindset that people might have is, why you just say that to everybody. So if you can pull out a specific, thank you very much for the energy and the work you put into Project X. Thank you for working that extra shift. Thank you for staying late last week. Thank you for covering. Thank you for mentoring that new member of staff. It's really made an impact. If you can give someone a specific, you significantly amplify the impact of the gratitude that you're delivering. My next tip is encourage peer-to-peer recognition. When you've got a one-to-one with a member of your team, never be frightened to say, who supported you recently? Who are you grateful for? Because that adds another level of power when you then go to that suggested individual and say, really appreciate what you're doing. I heard from Amanda or I heard from James that you'd really supported them in this project or this particular arena. That shows, wow, I'm getting gratitude from my boss, and it's also being delivered to my boss from one of my peers. It's another wonderful way to just build another brick, another layer of positive habits into the culture. It starts to become the norm that peers are recognizing peers, as opposed to some of those more toxic cultures that you may have experienced where everybody's in it for themselves and they're pushing and cajoling and sharp elbows are out and people are stabbing each other in the back. That's never going to drive high performance. It's going to create a divisive, toxic environment. So how do you start to develop that peer-to-peer gratitude and recognition that John Wooden used to relish so highly? Regard so highly, sorry. Well, you solicit it. You ask people those questions. And my final tip is use gratitude in the highest pressure situations. It's really easy when everything's going well to sit back and say, let me just do a bit of gratitude. Let me acknowledge this person, that team, that individual. It's far harder when you're under extreme pressure, high intensity pressure situations. That's when we default to problems. We forget all about the gratitude. Challenge yourself to have the discipline in good times and bad to never lose sight of high performance, people stepping over and above and being worthy of your thanks privately, through a handwritten note, publicly, in a team format, wherever it comes. Always challenge yourself to be aware of who's doing well and who needs a thank you. It will sustain your team through the darkest of periods and make them one of the most resilient, high-performing groups you could possibly create. So I hope this overview of gratitude will have debunked for anybody that thinks this is a soft trait, this is a nice to have but not necessary, this is too fluffy and woolly for me. I hope we've put a much sharper edge on that and a focus of actually, I understand why James positions this as a leadership essential. It is something I need to step into and do more of, because I can see the common sense, the logic behind the impact I will get and the impact my people will get by embracing gratitude more regularly. I wish you the very best of luck with it. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.